Hey everyone, Dirk here. Thanks for stopping by. This is episode 3 of Write, Record, Release, Repeat, a podcast I host with studio owner, singer-songwriter, and just great guy, Salim Nourallah from Dallas, Texas. I'm going to call this episode Indie, Major, or Me. This time around, Salim and I discuss major labels, indie labels, doing it all yourself, so going completely DIY, and what that actually means in 2025. We've both been around for quite a while, so we've got some stories to tell. We cover a whole lot of ground here, so it's one of our longer discussions, but I hope you'll dig it. So here we go. Well, so how have you been?
Good, celebrating another birthday, but glad to be here, It's just tripping me out. I just turned 58, but it was a great weekend. Kids were around, my girlfriend around, Klaus the dog who's downstairs. It's good. How about you?
I love that your dog's name is Klaus. That is just awesome.
Well, she named him Klaus, not me. I had nothing to do with it. So
that is so craft work.
yeah,
I love it. Yeah, no.
I have a theme song for him too. Klaus,
Of course
Klaus,
you do.
Klaus, Klaus is in the house. Klaus, 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 Klaus is in the house. Klaus is in the car. Klaus is on the walk. It's a Noompa. We're working on a new Nourallah Brothers album, man.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so is this like a new record or like the old tapes? Kind of work.
Well, it's new old. It's like half Beatles, free as a bird, except Faris is alive and well and living in Manila. Yeah, it's a combination of found Faris songs from about 20 years ago because he quit music completely.
Yeah, that's what I
15
heard.
years
You
ago.
told me about this at some point. Yeah.
So I'm able to stem separate his old tracks and sing on them and add bass and other things. And then he's contributing production ideas. Of course, he has tons of great, weird production ideas that I would never come up with. And then we're co-writing songs. One example is this song called Industry. One day I was talking to him, he said, I had this dream, you were singing this song, Industry, but I don't remember any of the music. But he described it to me. And then the next day I woke up and I had this tune in my head, Industry, bam, bam, Industry, bam, bam. And then we just started long distance kind of collaborating on it. And it's the wildest track. It's got like this middle bridge like Donovan or Syd Barrett that goes off into this crazy other world and then comes back. But it totally came from collaborating with him. Like that song I wouldn't have ever written Industry.
That's so awesome. Yeah. That's another podcast episode we can do, collaborations. Because I'm finishing up like an album now. Yeah. And it's all great and I love it and all, but it's just me. And I'm kind of thinking, next time around, I think I need to see people again, work with actual people, just collaborate. Sure. That could be so much fun. I mean, it's just, people are good. It's a good thing. It
is. Yeah. I get tired of
sometimes.
Too much me. Well, yeah, most of the time. I think probably all the people we're hanging with, we're at a point where we can pretty much, if we don't want to hang with someone, we don't have to.
Yeah, that's the luxury.
Yeah,
total luxury.
Yeah, and it's. I think that's the biggest part of fun is playing gigs with friends and collaborating with friends and making records with friends. Even if they're under my name, even if they're Salim Nourallah Records, I want friends involved. Yeah, that's my trip now. So
cool.
Anyway,
all right. So what are we talking about today, Salim?
I think we're talking about record labels.
Woo-wee.
I think we should start with our involvement to tell the dear listeners, because there may be some listeners that don't know about your or mine, our involvement. So I can lead the way if you
go right ahead.
Don't mind.
Go right ahead.
So I officially formed my first record label with a friend and business partner in 2016, and it was called Palo Santo Records, Palo Santo Records. Her name is Sarah Henry, and she's the one who had the name. And basically we had the label from 2016 to 2020. The pandemic pretty much took care of us. 2020 South by Southwest, we had an incredible Scottish band called Catholic Action that we had signed that was coming over from Scotland to play. They got stranded in New York. We also had a British songwriter named Emma Kupa, Kupa, who I discovered on Spotify, who is one of my favorite songwriters. And we had miraculously signed her and we're putting out one of her records. And she was supposed to come over, didn't make it. And but in our 4-year span, we put out a ton of really great records, and I'm proud of what we did. And then I kind of limped on by myself and formed I call it a boutique label called Happiness, a record label. And so far, I've only managed to put out, well, I guess I've helped with two things. I've helped with a great Australian band called Snowy Band that I highly recommend to you or anybody else listening. And then another Australian band called Machine Translations. And they have become one of my favorite bands. It's just the easy way to describe them, but they're far beyond this, is the Wilco of Australia.
Wow.
It's the
Okay.
project of a guy named Greg Walker, who's a producer and songwriter. He's been doing it for years. Different people kind of coming in and out of the band. But that is the latest thing that I was part of with Happiness. And my whole trip with all of it is just to try and help and give something back. Like, I've always been a music fan, just like you. And sometimes I feel like there are a whole lot of people making a whole lot of money off musicians, but I don't see a whole lot of people getting involved just out of sheer love and trying to support and like contribute something without having their eye on some sort of big financial payoff. And so that's where I'm coming from. It's really just been a charity. So that's my story.
So
In
Salim
a,
Music is out on what label, or is it just you? Or
well, yeah, well, my music I've been putting out on Happiness, a record label.
okay,
So using my own record label, because when Palo Santo was formed, we got a deal with the Orchard, which is basically Sony Music, and we have, for whatever it's worth, distribution through the Orchard that I've continued to use. So, what about you, Dirk?
the theme I think of this little podcast thing is basically indie, major, or me, and I've kind of been through all of them really. I started out way back when, the band we had a deal with Polydor, which is now of course part of Universal, one of the big three major labels. So I kind of went through that whole major label ecosystem, and we'll kind of get into that maybe later, what record companies actually do, what does a major label do, and what does an indie label do, and what do you have to do if you want to go it alone. And so I was on Polydor for 5 albums, around 8 years with the band, and then, got dropped, left, whatever you want to call it, and met Gunter. You know him well. And we started our own little indie label because I was kind of looking for, okay, how am I going to release my own music? But pretty much like you, I know so many colleagues and musicians and people, and I just wanted to give them some place to go because I knew that many people weren't releasing records anymore, which I thought was a real big shame, especially one guy called Niels Frevert. He's like a German songwriter, and I think he's just the best. And he had also been dropped. I think he was on, I don't know, Epic or something. And I thought, this just cannot stand. We need to build some kind of structure that he can release his music in a sensible way. So we started Tapete Records, which was
What year? Roughly what year?
Well, we started talking about it in 2001. First record came out in 2002. Tapete is still running. I left the company in 2014 because I just basically wanted to be 100% just musician again. And by that time, we had like over 50 bands, 2 music festivals, music publishing, and it's a machine. There's just so much to do and so much to take care of, and all these people that you really like, and you want to really do a good job and help them. And I was just noticing that the day only has 24 hours, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And so coming to the third stage, which I'm kind of in now, I kind of formed my own little label once again, but just for my own stuff. It's called Beg, Steal, and Borrow, which is basically just me and, once again, The Orchard as distributor, digital distribution now. We all end up at The Orchard at some point in our lives, I guess.
All roads
so I've kind of been through.
Sony.
So I've kind of been through all those 3 stages. Yeah, and every one of them has their positive things and their negative sides. That's something that we can talk about today, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I figure a lot of people out there are just thinking, okay, how do I do this? Where do I start? Can I do it all alone? Which definitely these days you can. I mean, it's never been easier to actually produce music and to put it out there. But what are like the pros and cons, and why would you want to look around and see if you can find a label, be it an indie label or a major label?
When you first were on labels back in the day, and also when I was, the label actually paid for the recording, which was quite nice. But because they paid for the recordings, they also had more of a say, I think. Like, I remember getting in a yelling match with the label head when we did our first record about something. I won't go into now, but with stuff like that. But then by the time you formed Tapete, and this is, of course, how I met you, it was kind of a deal where the artist was responsible for recording and delivering the record, and then the label would manufacture, distribute it, and promote. And that has, I believe, become kind of the norm for a lot of indie labels still. I know that there are still labels, the bigger labels with budgets that pay, I'm sure Dua Lipa is not paying for her records, I'm sure. But it's definitely something now that has been going on for quite some time. Right, that you're not getting money as an artist. You're not getting any sort of money to record.
You're definitely getting less money. I mean, the whole process is fluid. Cannot compare the whole thing in 2025 to say 2000. It's a whole different world out there. The budgets just aren't there because the money, I guess it's still there, but the distribution has kind of changed. I mean, just where that lands. There are indie labels that do pay out like production budgets. I mean, we always did. We always had like a production budget, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, sometimes totally small. But yeah, that's one thing that a label should definitely help you with.
Yeah. Klaus the dog just joined us, by the way. He heard I was talking to Dirk. Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten any money to record a record in forever. It's a big part of why I started my own recording studio. And it looks like you've got a very similar setup behind you. I think at the onset of like 2000, I felt like, and this is where Nourallah Brothers came from. The move was, we've got to be able to record ourselves because nobody is going to give us money to make records anymore. And if we don't figure out a way to do that, we're dead in the water. So that's kind of how my recording studio, Pleasantry Lane, was born, was have to figure out a way to make my own records without someone giving money.
Exactly. I mean, the same thing with me. Basically, at the end of the day, nobody is going to give it more time and effort than you are.
Yeah.
And you're going to have times, if you kind of see your music career as like a longer thing, you're going to have periods where there's money involved, and money always means other people as well. And we definitely had those times. There were producers, there were studios, there were, promo people, all that. But there will be times when that just is not an option. So you either do it yourself or it just does not get done. And that starts from the recording process. I mean, I started early recording my own stuff, definitely after the band, because I just knew I'm never ever going to get these budgets again. And actually, after doing 5 albums in like these crazy expensive studios, which was a trip, it was great. I totally enjoy it and I'm happy that I did it. But I just knew this just cannot last. And I don't want to wait for the budgets and the timing and all that hassle involved to be able to record my newest songs. I just have to put together some kind of setup that I can just work with and just get stuff done. And thankfully, technology has kind of worked for me, because when I started with the whole thing, 2000, you had a MacBook Pro and a Logic version, and you started out with that. And I kind of built it from there. So I'm pretty self-sufficient with the whole recording thing, as you are. So I think that's the starting point. Of course, record labels, one of their jobs, be it a major label, but let's kind of focus on bigger indie labels. Yeah. One of their jobs should be to sign the artist and then to kind of say, okay, who could he maybe work with as, say, producer, maybe, if they're not self-producing themselves, or where could they record? They usually, or they should have a network of studios, of cool places where they can send their artists and have them collaborate as well. That's another good thing about labels that we'll get to, is just the team effort thing, because I just find myself in a world now which I enjoy, but it's a lot of me, which means not only the recording, but also all that follows after that, because that's just the starting point, really.
Yeah, that's what I miss about having Palo Santo, is the team. But, sometimes you lose your team. You got to get a new team.
Yeah.
So, but I was wondering what your thoughts are on so the artist. Let's say right now a label came to you, okay, said, Dirk, we want to put out your music, but you're responsible for recording it, so all of the expenses. They're not going to. But what we'll do is we will promote it and we'll manufacture it, but then we own it. We're going to own your record for the rest of your life. Digital rights, everything. Would you take that deal?
I wouldn't know. See, there's so many like hybrid deals now. Let's take one step back for the 3 models that I kind of grew up with. Yeah. Okay, so you have like the major label, which is all that. The major labels, we used to have, my band was a thing called Künstler-Exklusivvertrag. That is like the most badass contract ever. They kind of own you. Yeah. They totally own you. They will give you money to produce, which of course you will have to pay back because it's all recoupable, which means all that studio time, the going out to Thai restaurants with the A&R guy after the session, you will be paying back that stuff 20 years from now.
But I want to jump in, though. Most artists never pay it back. You only pay it back if you make a ton of money and you sell the time, right?
Exactly.
Most artists get the Thai meal. They never pay back the Thai.
Exactly. So that's probably why.
And the limousine.
That's probably why you will never, ever see another Dirk album on any Universal affiliated labels.
Because you still owe them
whatever I put out, I'll still be paying for that Thai restaurant meal in London back in 1989.
Exactly.
So hey, if Sony, if you're listening, hey, I'm open for suggestions. But and back in the traditional sense of like what a record label actually does, or like a major label, they will pay for the studios and they will find the team, the production team, always depending on how much input the artist has in that. We had input. We said who we'd like to work with, and they actually help make that happen. And after the whole recording of the album, they know what mixing engineers, like the mastering people. We mastered with Bob Ludwig. I'm not going to master with Bob Ludwig anytime in my life anymore, but we did back in the day. And that was, because we were on Universal or whatever. So then you have the whole radio promotion team, the whole promotion side, digital marketing and playlists and all that stuff. And where is it going to be distributed? How do you get that stuff in the shops? Which is another thing that we have to think about now as well. You always think, wow, it's just me and I'm going to be all indie. But then you sit around half the week trying to get vinyl mail orders out to people who are interested. And
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Labels will handle finance and royalties and see that the money that you may be making will actually arrive at their door, and then they will hopefully give you a split. But the cons, of course, is that you're giving up a lot of your rights, and they kind of, in the sense of our deal back in the day, they kind of own that music. I can never just re-release those albums or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indie record label deals are more hybrid. Like you were saying, like they own you for life. In Tapete, it was always like a couple of years, depending on the deal. But I would like never give away the rights to my records for like forever, maybe 5 years or so, or 10. And I think that should suffice.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think it's kind of on many artists now to do it all, to not only be the studio, to make the music, but then to figure out a way to manufacture it if they are, and then distribute it. When we were kids, we fell in love with perhaps one job, which was songwriting maybe, and maybe singing, and then later on, I like to perform. We didn't really realize that we were signing up for all these other jobs, and jobs that in the conventional sense of fun are not fun jobs.
Yeah.
But if you want to continue on like you have and like I have, we have to do all those jobs. And I also think that you're gonna have strengths. You could be the greatest songwriter in the world and be absolutely miserable and terrible at managing your own career. So that if you don't have someone helping you, a team, a label, manager, a mother or father, or a sibling that really loves you, and I've seen this. I've seen some really incredibly talented people, and it almost seems like the most talented people are not able to multitask and become savvy businessmen and running their career and promoting themselves. So it's an interesting situation that we're in, to me, in 2025, you know?
Totally. We've both kind of gone down that route of doing it all ourselves, pretty much out of interest. Like, I just really wanted to know, okay, how does this all work, and how can I maybe do it better? I wasn't just feeling great about, how the label was doing promo. So I thought, how can I do this differently? Like, do I actually need like one team? That's going back to the hybrid model because I think a lot of people that may be watching, most of them are not going to have like a big Sony label deal or something, or may not even be on Jaguar or Tapete Records or whatever, where you have a dedicated team, which is, I have to say, a nice thing. If you find a good label, and if it's a good fit and you like the people, it's just kind of nice to have a team of people that you don't have to do everything on your own. Kind of have creative control, but also have people to talk to. What do you think about this? Or it's good to have feedback sometimes. Sometimes even if that feedback isn't like, oh, I love it, it's great. Even like a bit of pushback can be good if it's done in a good way.
Well, yeah, I relate to it. One of the things I miss about being on Tapete is the feedback and the camaraderie and the team and coming and visiting and hanging out and just feeling like you're just getting that support. You're not alone. You're not just alone in your studio, alone putting the record out. I miss that. So more than the limousines and the Thai dinners. I'm joking, of course. There were no limousines or Thai dinners.
Yeah, but even like the whole Tapete Records concept, at least in Europe, because I guess the market is like smaller. it's even difficult to kind of keep labels like that afloat as a business model, because all these people need to kind of pay the rent as well.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a different thing in the US because it's just a bigger market. So if you have, I guess if we like had with Tapete the market share of the US market that we had of what Tapete record was like, say, in Germany or in Europe, you know, we might have been like, okay, financially, but we were always, you know, always just struggling. It was always just really, really difficult.
I've said for years, actually, that I think that starting a record label is bad business. If I wanted to start a business to make money, I would start any other business. I would have started any business. So we started this record label again as sort of like a charity situation. We were hemorrhaging money. There was, you know, it would have been nice, obviously, if someone had a hit record and suddenly there was funds coming in, but that wasn't the goal. It was, and sure enough, it didn't happen. We didn't have anybody skyrocket up the charts. And that's the other thing too. I think that the chances of that kind of success for any label, even if we look at Tapete, I bet there's probably in all the hundreds of records and all the artists that label has put out, there's probably been no top 10 massive single. You know, it's all kind of like artists contributing. I'm not saying that there weren't artists that weren't successful, but the likelihood of one of these runaway, you know, Olivia Rodrigo situations is just, it's like you might as well be playing the lottery at your local gas station. We have that in Texas. I don't know about Germany, but do you have a lottery in Germany?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Germans are very
So,
keen
all
on
right.
lottery.
All right. Sorry for my ignorance, but you might as well be playing the lottery or going to Vegas if you're really looking to hit it big with an artist. And this frustrates me, by the way, because I know people that are running labels that's a consideration, that it in the mix of what their goals are is to create massive stars, and just say good luck. I'm opening a shoe store. So
It's tough. I think a lot of people out there will kind of probably be in the situation that we're in, maybe starting out or even like later in their careers of kind of wanting to do it all on their own and trying to figure out how the hell to do that. So that's why I was interested how you actually go about releasing your own music via your label, because mine is basically beg, steal, and borrow. It's a label, yeah, but it has a name, and I have like a digital distribution, but pretty much that's it. For promotion, I either hire independent promotion people that I know will kind of do a good job, or sometimes I just don't. And it's kind of changing, evolving. You know, 3-4 years ago, I was still doing like the traditional press, trying to get in the newspapers and the music papers.
well, we have to ask ourselves about that too. You know, when we first started, the traditional press was just the thing you did. And I find myself still trying. Like, I have a publicist I work with who's become a good friend, Krista Metler. She's awesome. But we just had a conversation a few weeks ago because I have a solo album coming out in the fall, and it's like, at this point, what's the goal even?
Yeah.
I've done my thing. People who know about me, and the people that don't know about me probably aren't gonna know about me. So and traditional press is just evaporated. So the game has changed there, you know, as far as publicity. Well, and then for new artists, I don't even know what to say. Do you know who David Lowery is?
Yeah.
He was
Sure.
very outspoken about the music biz, and he had this piece that he wrote that I've subscribed to, which is basically saying to guys like you or me that have been at it for a while and have kind of our own following, whatever it is, to not immediately release a record and give it away, to basically sell it by whatever means you have, whether it's Bandcamp, which has been a great way to sell records. That's what I've been doing. Or you do a Kickstarter and sell it, or you just sell it off your website. But basically what Lowry's saying is if you have any sort of following that you've developed, do not set up your digital streaming right at the get-go and give it away, because you've undercut yourself. So what I've been doing ever since I had a record called Somewhere South of Sane that came out in 2018, ever since then I've been following Lowry's advice, and it's been working. Basically, I sell the record either on Bandcamp or Kickstarter, however, and then months later I release it on Spotify and the streaming platforms and give it away. And I've been quite happy with doing that. But a new artist doesn't have that. But then the new artist might not even be making physical product. I've met younger songwriters who walked into my performance space, Galactic Headquarters, and saw all my records and CDs and went, "Whoa, you're like making stuff?" And now you don't have to make anything. We're making things because we're old school, which is what my T-shirt, I don't know, says in Japanese. I don't know if you can see it, but but making a record is still a really important part of the game to me, and it costs money. But I also tell myself at any given moment, I could stop making stuff and just release a record and it would go out digitally, and I'd probably might be the only person that shed a tear.
Yeah, I mean, probably a lot of like the young musicians that are coming out aren't even thinking about that whole label kind of baggage that we're carrying around, you know, how it used to be, or like the indie label thing, and how we got to the place where we are, which is just basically writing our own songs and releasing them. And I have an album coming out, same questions. Am I going to do any kind of press promotion at all? Because I find that it's always nice. The older I get, the better my press gets, which is a nice thing, an ego thing. But that doesn't sell 10 albums. You know, even like the biggest newspapers,
sell 5.
it just doesn't work. So that's really just an ego trip. And I'm constantly asking myself, okay, what am I going to do? So let's totally go into that whole. We've covered a bit what a major label is and the indie labels and that whole kind of route. And we're here now, the DIY approach. And one of my things that I wanted to get out there today is that it's a lot, and you have to be ready for it. It's frustrating at times because I wish I could just record music all day. And there are parts of the process which I really, really enjoy, which is like doing the artwork and even videos. I love doing my own little videos and all that, and engineering and producing all that. What I don't enjoy is doing, you know, YouTube metadata or trying to submit tracks for stupid Spotify playlists and all that stuff. That is just soul numbing, terrible work.
That's why we need assistants who love doing that stuff. Or
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. In my imagination, that would be some sort of, well, maybe label isn't even the right word for it anymore. Maybe it's like just people and a team. But people want to get paid, even your best friends. You can work with your best friend once, but second time around, he'll say, you know, dude, I need to pay the rent as well. And since budgets are just so small, and what comes back, because that is another reality of it, it's really, really, really hard to earn money as a recording artist these days.
I'm having flashbacks, and the only way I earned any money when I traveled to Europe was just what I call the hand-to-hand combat. You just going and playing and selling merch to one person at a time. And I believe, you know, I'm proud of the fact that now 2 of the Tapete records are basically out of print. Well, it means we sold something, buying merch, and they've been shipping it from Germany for years. Like, I'll be, how many copies of Constellation do you have? We're out. But that is how I have seen is like, I'm at the point where I'm not even that jazzed about playing live anymore. I don't want to travel further than my backyard. But I realize if I stop playing, then That's because that's how I've always sold records. And I believe, I'm proud of the fact that now two of the Tapete records are basically out of print. Well, it means we sold something, buying merch, and they've been shipping it from Germany for years. Like, I'll be, how many copies of Constellation do you have? We're out. But that is how it I have seen is like, I'm at the point where I'm not even that jazzed about playing live anymore. I don't want to travel further than my backyard. But I realize if I stop playing, then that's because that's how I've always sold records. So
Yeah. Because
that's
because
how
the
what
reality,
you're doing too.
yeah, the reality is like when I put my album out, or a single or whatever, and it's on the streaming services, at the end of the day, it's just gonna $10 per year or something like. It's just
Maybe.
it's insane. There's like nothing there. So just one show in any city around here, just one show at the merch table will earn me more money than probably a whole year of Spotify and Apple Music. That's the reality.
Yeah, it's true, but it goes even beyond that, and I know you know that. It's you told me on the last episode, just a great feeling of this thing that you made. It's not just the music, and the person carries it away, and they take it away to listen to it, and hopefully it'll be part of the soundtrack of their life for many years to come. And it goes beyond this streaming thing. I love streaming music, but it is total background situation. Like I very, very rarely stop and go, what is that? Sometimes I've stopped and gone, what is that? I've written it down and then I've gone out and bought it. But it's the buying the thing that then you focus on and you pay attention to it. That's what's still important to me.
I think with streaming, of course, you can use it in many ways. And I kind of use it as, finding stuff for my, I have this radio show, so I curate stuff. So I find stuff. And then actually I buy a lot of records then or vinyl after that. But the reality is that 99.9% of the people don't do that. They don't open up Spotify and type in Salim Nourallah or, show me all of Dirk Darmstaedter's latest records. They just put on some playlist. I've mentioned this book, The Mood Machine, before. That is a fantastic book about that whole thing. And the way people listen to these playlists is more like music. It's more of a background kind of thing. It's not really a discovery platform anymore, I think. So I'm kind of looking like, where can I go? Not just playing live shows, but it used to be Bandcamp. I always loved Bandcamp, but Bandcamp has been going through some changes recently as well. And I just have the feeling it's not really that big of a thing anymore, at least over here in Europe.
I'm still using it. It's still working. Nothing is forever. Bandcamp, who knows? It's been really great. It'd be a shame if it went away.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that was an issue because it got sold and resold to some gaming company or something.
It did.
So all big Bandcamp fans. So definitely I think it's a really, really good idea to, if you have anything, put it out on Bandcamp first and just half a year later, maybe do the streaming option, but try to kind of hone in on your real fans first, be it via merch table at the live show or Bandcamp. What I've been doing recently, I've kind of discovered Substack for myself, which
I've seen several friends doing that.
Yeah, which is kind of, I find a pretty cool way of like building your community, because I'm tired of the whole Facebook, Instagram ecosystem, which is a fleeting thing and very algorithmically fucked. I just have the feeling when I put stuff out there that it's not reaching even the people that have subscribed to my feed or something, which is
Yeah, I do
kind of
too.
weird. And it's a
Yeah.
lot of ads, and so I've kind of been trying to find like my own little space on the internet. Have you any ideas? What other things are you trying?
Yeah, I haven't started Substack yet. It seems like, you have to generate content like constantly, or maybe that's like what I'm seeing the friends that have it are doing to keep it rolling. And I just have been hesitant to be under pressure to generate content. Like I kind of just generate what I generate, and I don't want to feel like this. Got enough things,
Yeah, I get it totally.
so
Yeah,
that's why I haven't gotten on Patreon or whatever it
Patreon. Yeah,
is. Yeah, I haven't
it's a
gone on that
similar
either
thing, I
because
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just don't want to be under the. It might be a good thing, but I don't want to feel like I'm having to generate content. So
Yeah.
that's my trip.
I mean, one of the big questions that all musicians have or artists is like monetization, all the stuff you're doing. How the hell can you get somebody to actually pay money for that? It used to be that people would buy a CD. So we have the merch tables, go out and play gigs. But apart from that, it's definitely not streaming. That's you're not going to get anything from that. So it's Bandcamp. That's good.
Yeah,
I've never gone that route of the crowdfunding thing because I've never been like a friend of, okay, I have this project. I want to record an album. Can you please help me? I've never really wanted to do that, probably because I have my own studio anyway. I'll just go out and do it. That's not the thing. But I would like to find a way that my little crowd out there who actually, I think they actually want to kind of see that it's financially okay for me to keep doing this. I want to find a way for them to actually, pay me if they want. And that's why I've kind of looked into this, be it Patreon or
yeah.
Substack. I kind of decided on Substack, just I like the style more. And I do like, live shows. I will release just demo versions or just cover versions, all kinds of stuff.
Well, the crowdfunding seemed to have had its day. People are still doing it. The first record I did was actually my last record for Tapete. I did Hit Parade was my first
Oh, yeah.
crowdfunding record, and I loved it. I loved doing it. It was successful. I loved the connection with the fans and all the little customized pledge things that I came up with, like even a couple pledges for me writing a song for the person who pledged. But it's a lot of work. You have house concerts and customized songs, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, like all of these things, and then it's up to the artist to fulfill all the pledges. I've done it several times since, but my last one was for A Nuclear Winter, my record that came out in 23. It was probably, I think, the fourth time that I'd crowd funded a record. I don't know if I want to do it again, just because of it's a lot of work on the back end.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I know, wah wah wah, but
No, I've heard a lot of stories. Pretty much exactly that. That at times it was like great and I loved it, and then the next time it was like, oh my god, I almost had a heart attack and it
yeah.
almost killed me. You know?
Well, yeah. I feel bad about also the unfulfilled pledges. Like I guess they're donations, but I've had house concerts where you follow up for like a year and you can never get it just doesn't work for the person who pledged, and then you just never play the house concert, and then I feel like, oh, wow, this person paid me to play a house concert I never played. Kind of that's like the 2 a.m. thought for me is, oh, it's that house concert I never played, but I tried. So I don't know.
So
It's
if like a young artist, if you met like a young guy or a girl that had a great songs and was thinking about, oh, how am I going to do this? Am I going to try it, looking around for a label, be it major or indie, or do I start, can I do it all on my own? Or like the hybrid model, can I do part of it on my own? And what direction would you go in? What would you tell people?
Well, at first I'd say don't quit your day job. I hope you have a good job because you're going to need money to pay for things. And then just the recording alone, you start with the recording. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to do it? Are you going to do it on your own? Are you going to go see, to a professional recording studio? And then the next thing is once you've made it, you have to make the decision of, is this just going to be digital, which would be cheap and easy, or are you going to make a product? And honestly, at this point, I would advise young artists not to make a product unless they had a good job and they could pay for it. Yeah, I think if you have the funds, make something. If you care, make something. But now it's kind of go straight to digital and then go play and see if anybody reacts. But I think artists can even get further now, young artists, if they figure out how to maneuver this digital world, this internet world, and go crazy with the streaming numbers and everything else, and then maybe someone will take notice. But
Wow.
I've arrived at, I want old school connections. I want authentic, real connections. I don't care if the video has 65,000 views, but not a single real person has bought a record or sent a nice message. It's worthless. Or if a song has a lot of streams and you don't hear a word from a real person. So that's where I'm at. But I think I answered what I would say to a young artist is it's just you have several decisions to make, and how do you want to do it? What's important to you? I just kind of arrived at the streaming numbers for me make my ego feel good, makes me feel like I'm not a loser, but it doesn't do anything else. So I just have to observe that thought.
Streaming numbers always make me feel like a loser, regardless of how big or small they are. So
yeah?
Somebody will always have higher streaming numbers.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
If there's one thing I could wish for is just get rid of all the metrics. No more streaming numbers or view numbers or all that crap. It kind of kills the mystique as well. If I hear like a record, I just think this is crazy good. This is huge. In my mind, it's huge. Oh, it has like 26 views on YouTube. And you think like it's not huge. And kind of the perception of it kind of goes.
Well, leave it to human beings to make it a competition. I mean, it's really, they found a way to kind of make art and music a competition. And it's disgusting, I agree. And it's not conducive to making artists feel good about themselves. It's undermining everything, but we could have a whole episode on that. But yeah, I'm with you ultimately. It's just, but as we've played music all these years, the game keeps changing and someone else is running the game and we can make decisions on how we're going to play the game, but you're just part of this big game. And I think we've covered how you and I are navigating it. And then younger artists have a lot of decisions to make.
I mean, if I had anything to say to upcoming musicians, one of the things is really don't get hooked on the metrics.
Yeah.
Because they are just soul killing. It's just terrible.
So hard though. Yeah, it does. It is hard. Like look at the Palo Santo Records artists and their metrics on Spotify. It's heartbreaking. And these are records that I'm really proud of and still listen to and think are incredible. I don't think any one of those artists probably feels like a success, even though they should, because they made it and it's really good. But the metrics are heartbreaking, Maybe if we were talking to those artists, none of them would feel like their records were successes, even though they're all really great records and they're really great artists. All it did was undermine probably how instead of having this feeling of I did this thing and I'm really proud of it, then you're constantly reminded of that it wasn't successful enough. So I hate it.
So I'm definitely going to think about the David Lowery thing to really, really leave streaming as the last
option. Thing, the last hurrah. Yeah. It's a good thought, but I'm firmly now in try to sell it to my fan base and just make back the cost of manufacturing. That's my only goal, is to break even, and then at some point I'm happy to give it away.
I just like to have one place where my whole body of work is at. So
Yeah,
that's what I always thought
me
was
too.
like really cool about the iTunes store or the whole digital thing. That stuff wasn't out of print, because back in the day, you did some records and they were like gone. You maybe could find them, on the flea market or secondhand stores, but they were out of print and they were just not available anymore. So
I've got a couple that are.
yeah, which back in the day I always thought was a terrible thing. Now
Yeah.
I'm coming to the conclusion that is so great, the scarcity. It's not out there everywhere. Maybe that's the new thing, that is just not everywhere.
Yeah.
You're not on all the platforms. You're only here or only there. And maybe people out there have some comments of new cool places or ideas where artists can release and we can build a kind of indie community again. Because I have the feeling that our whole indie spirit, or like where bands and young artists can release stuff, is kind of broken down, because all the indie labels have tried to play the Spotify game as well, and they're losing. It's just
Yeah.
not working. You're not getting on the big playlists. You're dropping like your songs in this big bucket of nothingness, of blackness, and calling that your official release. If you're not on a playlist, then you might as well just dig a hole in the ground and put your cassette in there.
Yeah. Well, I have heard 150,000 releases a day. A day. Just think of what that is every week, and then you're in that stream with everybody else. So it's overwhelming. Yeah. Don't quit your day job. Have something else that you love to do that can pay your electric bill, and good luck.
These
That's
are
what I have
these
to
are
say.
very uplifting last words here. But I must say, I'm having a lot of fun with stuff right now. I'm just trying to have as much fun with everything. Maybe that's to take the pressure off. The good thing about this whole thing is that you can kind of say, well, I'm just going to do what I need to do and what feels good, and just put it out there and leave it all be. I mean, I'm trying to,
Yeah.
do good videos or do good cover photos or whatever, but basically just keep on keeping on, and not get too frustrated or down on metrics or all the other crap, and try and play some shows and actually meet people, and just hear from them like, wow, I really dig that song, or that record means so much to me, because that will take you through the next 2 or 3 months spiritually.
Yeah.
Streaming numbers just are not going to do that. They're just not going to really help you. I have colleagues that have amazing streaming numbers, and they're not really happy people, because usually those streaming numbers are for some off tracks that are on some kind of weird compilation. Or a good friend
Yeah.
of mine who puts out these like really beautiful, deep songs. He did one song with this other huge artist 10 years ago, which he really doesn't like, which is not his style at all. And that is always the number one on his page. And that is all his streaming numbers. So you go on his page and you think like, wow, he has a lot of streams, but actually it's just that one stupid song,
Yeah.
and he hates it.
Of
So
course. Yeah. Well, it's for now that's what we have. It's a difficult thing to navigate, but we're privileged. I do want to add that. We have a podcast, but because
that's the
we've been
golden goose.
slogging away all these years and doing it, and we've slowly built up these things. So I do recognize that you and I are in a very lucky, fortunate position to continue to make our own records, and there are people out there that care about them. Thank you. Acknowledging you. And yeah, I'd like to give something back to the younger artists, and that's why I want to continue to be involved with a record label somehow, even if it's just me and I'm the only person on the team. Or maybe you and I get really crazy and we form a label with a bunch of young, tech billionaires.
Let's get the tech billionaires in.
Yeah, we're just in the comments. Let us know.
Let us know. Yeah, but that's maybe like good parting words though. How you're still involved with like other people helping, because I had my 12 years of Tapete being with bands and helping, and since then I just do my own stuff. But maybe at some point I'll feel that I need to, I don't know, start a team again.
Yeah. Well, I'm here if you ever want to talk.
Thank you, Salim.
We'll pull you back in. Come on, Dirk.
Every time I want out, they pull me back in.
That's right. You've started a new label.
Oh my God. Yeah. But even back in 2002, people told me that is a really stupid idea. No, start
out
a label.
Okay. And
Jesus.
you sure helped me, and I'm grateful. I've always been grateful. So, man, I wouldn't know you if it weren't for that. So,
see,
yeah, it's all positives.
Positive. So stay positive. That's the main lesson of this podcast.
Absolutely.
Fuck the metrics and stay positive.
Yeah. That's right.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. That was episode 3 of our little podcast called Write, Record, Release, Repeat, which is sort of our credo, if you will.
And I'm Salim in Texas.
And I'm Dirk in Hamburg. See you all for the next episode. Do what the cool kids do. Sign up or subscribe, or what do the cool kids do? I don't know.
Leave comments.
Leave comments. Tell
Tech
your friends.
billionaires. Come on. Bring it.
Bring it.
Get us back in the label business. All right. Adios.
See ya. Bye.